When the crown prince was stranded among the common folk, I saved his life. To repay his debt of gratitude, he was forced to decree that his betrothed crown princess be bestowed upon another. After I entered the palace, his favor for me never waned, even at the cost of estranging himself from the Empress Dowager. Yet, as I lay on my deathbed, he remained silent for a long time.
The debt of gratitude for saving my life back then. I have finally paid it off. If there is a next life, I would rather you had never saved me. That way, Awan would still be my crown princess.
So, he regretted it after all. I died harboring deep resentment. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day I accompanied Xiaoheng back to the palace. This time, when the man asked me what reward I desired, I lowered my gaze and answered softly, "This humble girl dares not make extravagant demands. If your highness wishes to bestow something, then grant me 100 ounces of gold and allow me to marry." As my words fell, silence enveloped the grand hall. Before long, a young lady of noble birth burst into laughter. Her eyes filled with utter disdain as she looked at me.
A village girl is, after all, just a village girl. Even when receiving a reward from the crown prince, her mind can only think of getting rich and marrying.
Hearing this, Xiaoheng abruptly raised his head, a flicker of surprise appearing in his usually placid eyes. Instead, the empress beside him gently reassured me.
Miss Liu, do not be afraid. Saving the crown prince is a great merit. Whatever reward you desire, just speak up boldly.
I was momentarily dazed. In my past life, when I knelt in the grand hall, the empress had asked the exact same question. At that time, I was completely unaware that Xiaoheng had long been betrothed to a crown princess. Blushing furiously, I had said, when we were among the common folk, I had already come to regard Xiaoheng as my husband. That simple sentence led to half a lifetime of mistakes. Therefore, this time, I merely bowed my head respectfully and gently shook it. My voice was steady as I spoke. The crown prince is blessed with great fortune, so he was naturally destined to escape disaster. This humble girl would not dare to ask for anything more. Seeing my persistence, the empress could not force the issue further.
Since that is the case, then you shall be rewarded with 1,000 taels of gold and an official status. He suddenly found himself in a bit of a difficult position. Giving money was easy enough, but as for finding a husband and getting married, that would have to wait until she found someone she liked in the future.
This was merely an excuse anyway, not what I truly wanted. I nodded obediently, preparing to withdraw from the main hall. I had only taken 2 steps when I suddenly heard a deep, emotionless voice.
Wait.
My footsteps halted, and my heart suddenly clenched tight. Xiaoheng stared at me from a distance, his gaze deep and dark. After watching me for a long time, he spoke with double meaning.
Is what Lady Liu truly seeks really just marriage? Or are you trying to take this opportunity to demand something that does not belong to you?
The color instantly drained from my face. It turned out he had been reborn too. He even suspected that I would cling to him just like in our past life. Seeing that I remained silent, Xiaoheng's tone grew even colder. He issued a decree in an unyielding tone.
I have a younger brother, the Prince of Yan. Though he has a bit of a wild temper, he is of a similar age to you. The 2 of you shall wed next month.
Every word felt like a heavy blow landing on the ground. In our past life, Xiaoheng had also issued a decree of marriage. Except that time, the one who suffered the grievance was his crown princess. Today, it is finally my turn. I remained silent for a long time, knowing there was no way to change this. I could only force a smile, bending down into a deep bow. This humble girl thanks your highness for granting the marriage. After leaving the main hall, the empress specially sent a maid to call me to a side room. She took my hand, her tone carrying a hint of helplessness.
I have heard about what happened between you and the crown prince outside the palace. I originally intended to find an opportunity for you to become his concubine in the future. But now that the imperial decree has been issued, we can only wrong you.
I stood in place without saying a word, a concubine to the crown prince. I was not a daughter of a noble family. In everyone's eyes, to rely on the favor of saving Xiaoheng's life just to become his concubine was already giving me immense face. In my past life, after Xiaoheng insisted on making me his consort, the woman originally chosen to be the crown princess, Yu Suiwan, could not bear the humiliation. She cut her hair with the sword right in front of Xiaoheng, her face deathly pale, and with red eyes, she threw down these words.
"It was I who misjudged you and misplaced my true feelings."
Back then, Xiaoheng shielded me behind him, his expression quite cold, saying nothing at all. It wasn't until many years later, when he was drunk, mistook me for her, and held me close, apologizing over and over in a hoarse voice.
Awan, you didn't misjudge me at all, nor did you misplace your feelings. It was I who failed you.
Only then did I finally understand. It turned out, he truly had feelings for her, but because of his debt of gratitude to me, he had hidden them for so many years. Snapping back from my memories, I followed the empress's words and smiled. I understand that my background is too humble, and I dare not harbor any unrealistic expectations. To be able to marry the Prince of Yan is already more than I could hope for. After I finished speaking, the room suddenly fell dead silent for a second. I turned my head to look, only to see, in the dim light outside the door, a man standing there expressionlessly. I couldn't help but feel a chill run down my spine, wondering just how long he had been eavesdropping. Xiaoheng's dark, deep gaze swept over me, lingered for a second, and then calmly drifted away. He turned around and gently took the hand of the woman behind him.
Mother, your son has brought the crown princess to pay her respects to you.
Instinctively, I raised my eyes to look at that woman. In this lifetime, she did not have to experience the frustration of a forced marriage. Standing side by side with Xiaoheng, they looked to anyone like a perfect young couple. Withdrawing my gaze, I quietly excused myself and walked toward the exit. As I brushed past Xiaoheng, neither of us paused, as if we had never known each other. The Empress bestowed a residence in the capital upon me. While waiting for the wedding day, I often heard people talking about the Prince of Yan. They said he was exceptionally handsome, even more good-looking than Xiaoheng. They said he was a playboy prince, highly skilled at pitch-pot and archery. Some also said he hadn't taken a wife because he already had someone in his heart. Hearing this, I fell silent for a long time. In my past life, Xiaoheng married me, while his heart belonged to someone else. I had long had enough of that. Marrying again in this lifetime, I was determined not to repeat the same mistake. Lifting the hem of my skirt, I boarded the carriage, intending to go to the palace to beg Xiaoheng to call off this marriage. Just as I arrived outside the study, I heard a male voice. He sounded quite young, his clear voice carrying a hint of anger.
Brother, by what right do you arrange a marriage for me? You clearly know I've long had someone in my heart. I will absolutely not marry anyone else.
My fingers paused as I was about to push open the door. I knew in my heart that the person inside the room was likely the Prince of Yan. Xiaoheng let out a sigh, his tone sounding quite helpless, as if he was completely at a loss with this younger brother of his.
You've been looking for that girl for 3 years, yet you don't even know her name, and you only caught a fleeting glimpse of her appearance. If you never find her, are you never going to marry for the rest of your life?
When mentioning me, Xiaoheng paused for a moment, making it hard to tell what his actual feelings were.
She did, after all, save my life by marrying her. You will be repaying this debt of gratitude on behalf of the imperial family.
I suddenly found it quite laughable. In this lifetime, I had never begged Xiaoheng to marry me. Yet not only did he insist on decreeing this marriage, he was even forcing someone else to repay his debt for him. Sure enough, in the next second, I heard the Prince of Yan talk back in a fit of rage.
Anyway, I will absolutely not marry her. Brother, if you force me, I will leave for the borderlands immediately and never return.
He flung his sleeve and walked toward the main door. I quickly stepped aside, lowered my eyes, and obediently bowed my head, not daring to cast a single glance at this future husband of mine. Fortunately, the Prince of Yan was in a fit of anger and had no time to pay attention to me. Looking at his retreating figure, just as I was about to let out a sigh of relief, the study door was suddenly pulled open. Xiaoheng looked at me coldly, his gaze complex and deep, as if trying to see right through me. After a long silence, he suddenly sneered.
What? Knowing that the Prince of Yan wants to call off the wedding, did you rush over here in a panic, hoping to stop him, just so you can keep clinging to power and status?
Xiaoheng's words were incredibly harsh. In fact, after hearing their conversation just now, I understood that Xiaoheng would absolutely never agree to cancel this marriage. But now, for once, I actually wanted to argue my case. Your Highness, you are mistaken. I have never thought of clinging to power and status. My coming here today was also to call off the engagement. Hearing my words, Xiaoheng was stunned for a few seconds. Then, as if remembering something, his tone grew even colder.
You refuse to marry him? Are you perhaps still eyeing the position of crown princess?
Actually, in my past life, I had never thought about becoming the crown princess. It was simply because I loved Xiaoheng, and he just happened to be the crown prince. But as it turned out, this was how he saw me. I shook my head, my tone sincere. I just don't want to marry a husband who doesn't love me. To waste a lifetime, letting the years go to waste for nothing. I didn't know which words angered Xiaoheng, but he sneered, his voice dripping with mockery.
What if I say, I want you to waste your entire life?
I looked at him in astonishment. Xiaoheng stood with his back to the light, making his expression hard to read, yet his meaning was crystal clear.
Because of you back then, Awan shaved her head to become a nun and suffered for a lifetime. You owe her so much, and you will pay it all back, bit by bit.
So that was how it was. The suffering Yuan had endured, I would have to endure as well. After saying this, Xiaoheng seemed to grow tired of looking at me. He turned his back to me, his tone brooking no argument.
Calling off the engagement is absolutely out of the question. Accept your fate. Stop harboring foolish thoughts.
Xiaoheng turned and walked away. I massaged my legs, which had long since gone numb from kneeling, let out a bitter smile, stood up, and slowly walked out of the hall. The one leading the way for me was a very young maid. The way she looked at me carried a hint of pity. She whispered to me,
Miss Liu, actually, His Highness Prince Yan is very nice. He is not as bad as the Crown Prince made him out to be. He won't let your life go to waste. It is just that he already has someone else in his heart.
Recalling the woman Prince Yan insisted on marrying, I felt a bit curious, so I continued to listen.
3 years ago, Prince Yan went to Jiangdong for disaster relief. He encountered assassins, fell off off a cliff and his whereabouts became unknown. He was saved by a girl. She refused to tell him her name, and after curing His Highness's eyes, she left immediately.
Speaking up to this point, the young maid's tone carried a hint of regret.
Prince Yan went back to look for her several times afterward, but there was never any news. It is such a pity. They clearly should have ended up married.
She suddenly covered her mouth, remembering that I was the one who was supposed to marry Prince Yan. In a panic, she wanted to apologize to me, but I just stood there, completely stunned and frozen in shock. 3 years ago, I passed through Jiangdong while traveling to practice medicine. At the bottom of a cliff, I happened to rescue a severely injured man. He had hit his head when he fell off the cliff and was blind when I brought him back to consciousness. When he realized I had changed his clothes and washed his body, he stared blankly for a long time before blushing and asking me with quiet determination,
Miss, what is your name? Once I return, I will definitely take responsibility for you.
I am a physician. I certainly did not care about such things when saving a life, so I kept my mouth shut and said nothing. It just so happened that the disaster in Jiangdong was very severe at that time. As soon as his eyes recovered, I left a few prescriptions and departed in a hurry. Could it be that the man was actually the Prince of Yan? While I was lost in thought, a clear male voice suddenly came from behind me.
I heard from the guards that you are the woman my eldest brother betrothed to me.
My whole body stiffened, instinctively keeping my head down. I did not respond. From the corner of my eye, I saw those black boots embroidered with cloud patterns pass by me, finally coming to a steady halt right in front of me.
Raise your head.
It felt as though a long time had passed, yet it also felt like only a second. Unable to hold out any longer, I clenched the hem of my skirt and prepared to raise my head, only to hear another man's deep voice.
No need to raise your head.
My body shuddered. Xiao Hung had suddenly appeared here for some reason. He looked down at the Prince of Yan, his voice carrying a hint of coldness as he spoke.
In order to find your beloved, you demand to see the face of every girl you meet. Have you not done enough of this ridiculous nonsense?
He paused. His gaze swept over me as I kept my head down, not knowing what he was thinking. His tone softened slightly.
And I can guarantee you that the person you are looking for is not her.
The Prince of Yan, who had been holding back, suddenly demanded stubbornly.
Why? Does Big Brother know her very well?
This time, Xiao Heng did not answer. He must understand me, having saved his life twice, and having been husband and wife in a past life during our most loving days. He even knew exactly when my period was due. He would prepare brown sugar water for me in advance, and coax me into drinking it, but all of this he could not mention now. In the end, he only left a polite, formal explanation.
When I was saved by her among the common folk, I never heard her mention such a thing.
She is a weak woman. How could she possibly walk all the way from Huai'an to Jiangdong? You are overthinking it.
He spoke with absolute certainty. The Prince of Yan wanted to ask more, but Xiao Hung grew impatient. He waved his hand and ordered the guards to escort the Prince of Yan out of the palace.
Since the marriage has already been bestowed upon you two, you must act according to the rules. From this day forward, until the day of the wedding, you are not allowed to meet again.
After sending him away, Xiao Heng finally turned around, staring at me gloomily, his tone laced with displeasure.
Why didn't you refuse?
I dazed for a moment, only then, realizing what he was asking was why I didn't refuse the Prince of Yan when he demanded to see my face. I could only answer respectfully. He is a prince. This humble woman did not dare to refuse. Besides, since your highness insists on making him my husband, he will see this face of mine sooner or later. I don't know which words provoked Xiao Heng, but his face fell, and his voice carried a chilling coldness.
What? Having met him only once, you've already taken a liking to the Prince of Yan? Don't say I didn't warn you. He already has someone in his heart, and he can never love you.
Xiao Hung had already said these words many times. I suppose he truly loathed me to the core. I let out a helpless, bitter smile, watching Xiao Hung fling his sleeves and leave. I then turned around to leave the palace. 1 month before the wedding, I planned to go to a Buddhist temple outside the city to offer incense. Just as I was about to board the carriage, my maid brought some news. His Highness, the Prince of Yan, has fled. The Prince of Yan had a very straightforward temperament and never wanted to settle. That day in the hall, he had declared that if Xiao Hung insisted on forcing the marriage, he would flee to the borderlands. This was entirely within my expectations, but even so, I still couldn't help but listen. As my maid explained what happened, the Prince of Yan had left a letter for the Crown Prince, saying he would rather die than marry someone he didn't love. He also said that if the Crown Prince wanted to repay a debt of gratitude, he should marry the girl himself. This had made His Highness absolutely furious. I lowered my head and smiled slightly, acting as if nothing had happened, and took the carriage to the temple. After paying my respects to the deities, someone in the temple led me to a back room to rest. Just as I stepped through the door, someone covered my mouth from behind. He lowered his voice, his tone very fierce.
Don't make a sound. If anyone asks about me in a moment, say you haven't seen me at all.
This voice sounded quite familiar. I instinctively turned my head to look, and clearly saw the man's young and exceedingly handsome face. Of course, he also clearly saw my face. The man who had been completely cold and icy just a moment ago suddenly widened his eyes in shock. A red blush slowly crept up to the tips of his ears. He looked at me in disbelief.
I've finally found you.
I blinked my eyes, completely recognizing him. The man I had saved back then was indeed Prince Yan. He stared straight at me for a long time, before he finally recovered himself. Blushing, he let go of my mouth, and sentence after sentence poured out.
Do you still remember me? 3 years ago, I was that blind, wounded soldier you saved in Jiangdong. You even helped me change my clothes back then. I've been looking for you for several years, but I didn't know your name. I really didn't expect to run into you today. Oh right. My name is Xiao Xingyu.
I couldn't help but smile. I had heard my maid say before that Prince Yan was a man of few words. Seeing him today, she must have gotten her information wrong. The man in front of me seemed eager to pour out 3 years' worth of words all at once. The next second, the sound of guards searching for someone suddenly came from outside the window. I stood up, told Xiao Xingyu to stay in the room and not wander off, and planned to lead those people away. But after taking just 2 steps, the corner of my robe was suddenly grabbed. In the shifting light and shadow of the room, the young man's eyes shone exceptionally bright. He pleaded with me, looking slightly aggrieved.
This time, can you tell me your name? I don't want to miss you for another several years in vain.
I didn't tell Xiao Xingyu my name, but I told him that we would meet again before long. Xiao Xingyu's bright, expressive eyes instantly dimmed, but he still nodded.
All right, I believe you.
After walking out of the room, the guards sent by Xiao Heng saw that it was me in the room. They all knew the Prince of Yan had run away just to avoid marrying me, so they didn't even ask any questions, and turned around to leave. After returning from the temple, I waited quietly in my courtyard for a few days. As expected, news arrived. Although I had helped Xiao Xingyu drive away the guards that day, he hadn't run very far on his own before being caught by Xiao Heng's men. Right now, he was being scolded in the Crown Prince's palace. I stood up and asked my maid to prepare a carriage for the imperial palace. She asked me in confusion.
Right now, both your highnesses are furious. Why are you heading there, my lady?
I looked down and smiled. Of course I'm going to fulfill a promise of mine. When I arrived outside the door, the first thing I heard was a teacup smashing onto the floor, along with Xiao Heng's cold reprimand. Through the crack in the door, I looked inside the room. Xiao Xingyu was kneeling on the floor, yet he still refused to back down.
Brother, I've already found the girl who saved my life back then. I've been looking for her for so many years, and we finally crossed paths again. I beg of you, please let us be together.
Xiao Heng seemed to be exasperated, pressing his fingers against his forehead, with a face full of irritation. Just then, a eunuch announced my arrival to him. After a long pause, he let out a long, helpless sigh.
Fine. Since you absolutely refuse to marry her, Lady Liu has arrived. Tell her to her face.
Xiao Xingyu froze. Once he realized what Xiao Heng meant, he immediately stood up and spoke before I could even draw near.
Lady Liu, I already have someone in my heart. This marriage.
He turned his head just in time to meet my smiling gaze and froze in utter disbelief. I curtsied slightly to him and said with a smile, Your Highness, Prince of Yan, I didn't lie to you. We have crossed paths again. Xiao Xingyu did not say a word. In his initially dazed eyes, a look of joy slowly emerged. He stared at me intently for a long time. It lasted so long that even Xiao Heng felt something was amiss. As if guessing something, he spoke up to interrupt.
Xingyu, why are you dazed? This marriage, you were the one who insisted on calling it off.
Hearing this, Xiao Xingyu suddenly snapped back to his senses. He fell to his knees in a flurry, as if terrified that a second's delay would ruin everything.
Brother, I'm not calling off the marriage anymore. This marriage is wonderful. I want to marry her.
Not expecting him to suddenly change his mind, Xiao Heng instinctively cast a complex look at me, his fingers tightening on his lap. After a long while, he let out an extremely sarcastic sneer.
Didn't you just say you found your beloved and would marry no one else? Why is it that the moment you see Liu Changning, you change your mind?
Xiao Heng's words suddenly came to a halt, because at this moment, he finally realized a possibility. Perhaps back then, the woman who saved the Prince of Yan, whom he had searched for all these years, and insisted on marrying, was me. The news that the Prince of Yan, after meeting me once, became eager to marry me, soon spread throughout the city. The common people didn't understand the details. They just assumed I must look like a heavenly beauty. To have infatuated Xiao Xingyu so completely, even in the palace, in the middle of the night, there were wealthy young ladies who came specifically to catch a glimpse of me. Everyone was crowded together, and someone accidentally knocked over a wine cup, soiling my skirt. Left with no choice, I had to follow a maid to a side room to change my clothes. After entering the room, just as my fingers touched my sash, I heard a dark, questioning voice.
You never mentioned to me. that you actually saved the Prince of Yan.
It was Xiaoheng. He had been waiting here all along. With a stern face, he slowly stepped out from behind the screen. His dark eyes stared intently at me with a complex expression. I stopped what I was doing and spoke in a casual tone. Back then, this humble girl had no idea the person I saved was the Prince of Yan. It is a physician's duty to save lives. There is nothing to boast about, but Xiaoheng did not believe me.
Is that so? First the Prince of Yan, and now this prince. The people you save are all royalty. If anyone says you don't harbor intentions of clinging to the powerful, who would believe them?
With every word he spoke, he took a step closer to me. The skirt that had just been wet with wine was still clinging to my body, making me extremely uncomfortable. Instinctively, I gripped my sash tightly and took a step back. Seeing my movement, Xiaoheng's gaze darkened. He bent down with a hint of playfulness.
Why are you hiding? It is just changing clothes. In our past life, is there any part of you I haven't seen? Even that red mole on your back, I still remember it.
Furious, I could no longer tolerate it and interrupted him. Please show some self-respect, Your Highness. The next second, there was a knock on the door. A figure stood outside, asking with concern.
Miss Liu, you've been changing for a long time. I thought I heard some noise just now. Did something happen?
It was Yu Yuan's voice. She was also the one who was destined to be the crown princess. Xiaoheng valued her in his heart. He quickly wiped the expression from his face, gave me a hard glare, and retreated behind the screen. I hurriedly threw on a coat, suppressed my anger, and then walked out of the room. Yu Yuan looked past my shoulder, peering into the room. Seeing that the room was pitch black, with no sign of anyone else, she finally averted her gaze. She inquired in a seemingly casual manner.
I was dining with the crown prince, but after he walked over here just now, he completely vanished. Miss Liu, did you happen to run into His Highness?
My expression remained calm. After hearing her question, I even smiled at her. No, I didn't. He probably went somewhere else. After returning home from the banquet, recalling my clash with Xiaoheng, I couldn't help but feel anxious. Fortunately, my wedding day with the Prince of Yan was drawing near. I didn't need to go to the imperial palace anymore. I only had to stay at home and wait peacefully to be married. During this time, Xiao Xingyu would always try every possible way to visit me. Whenever he came, he would bring me all kinds of novel items. Those earrings and bracelets he casually gave me made the other young ladies green with envy when they saw them.
These were crafted by the largest jewelry shop in the city. They only make 2 pairs a month. They're incredibly valuable. The rest of us couldn't buy them even if we wanted to.
After I inquired about the price, I was a bit dumbfounded. I quietly told Xiao Xingyu, stop sending them. He beamed as he stared at me, but he didn't listen.
How could I? Since it is for my future wife, I must choose the very best.
Seeing that I had a poor appetite, he stayed up all night to rush to Huayan just to buy me pastries from my favorite shop. Early the next morning, I gently pushed open my bedroom door and saw him sitting in the courtyard, holding the warm pastries in his hands. Though there were dark circles under his eyes, he still smiled and urged me.
Changyu, come quickly. They'll get cold if you're any slower.
He picked up a piece of pastry and carefully brought it to my lips. After I took a bite, the familiar sweet flavor spread across my palate. Suddenly, my eyes welled up with tears. After marrying Xiaoheng in my past life, I spent half my life suffering in the palace. Having been reborn, I had never returned to my hometown. Tasting this flavor again now truly felt like a lifetime ago. Seeing me shed tears, Xiao Xingyu suddenly panicked. Flustered and at a loss, he scrambled to find a handkerchief while trying to wipe away my tears, thinking he had done something to upset me.
Changning, please don't cry. If there is something you don't like about me, I'll change.
I quickly shook my head. There is nothing wrong with you, and I'm not upset. On the contrary, I am just too happy. Happy that in this lifetime, I finally don't have to waste my years away. Happy that in this lifetime, I could find a husband who truly cares for me. Xiao Xingyu is a prince. Before we get married, I have to accompany him to pay respects to the high and mighty. But standing outside the Empress Dowager's palace gates, I hesitate. In my past life, though Xiaoheng doted on me, it also stirred up a lot of resentment. They said I was unworthy of my position, and that I existed solely to bewitch the emperor. At first, he didn't care about those rumors at all. He even went so far as to punish ministers for my sake, and fall out with the Empress Dowager. But as time went on, everything changed. It just so happened that a severe drought struck the land then. As the Empress, I led the prayers for rain, yet the drought showed no signs of letting up. So, people started saying it was my lack of virtue that had incurred the wrath of heaven. When these words reached Xiaoheng's ears, he didn't punish the rumor mongers like before. Instead, he fell silent for a long time, before saying to the maids and eunuchs,
Perhaps the empress I chose was indeed the wrong one to marry.
So the very next day, the Empress Dowager ordered me to kneel in punishment outside the palace gates. I didn't know what I had done wrong. I wanted to beg Xiaoheng for help, but for the first time, he refused to see me. His tone was clearly very gentle, yet his words were utterly heartless.
Since grandmother is punishing you, just endure it.
The Empress Dowager loathed me to the extreme. Once she realized Xiaoheng would no longer protect me, she found fault with me at every turn. For several months in a row, I always had fresh wounds on my body. From then on, whenever I saw the Empress Dowager, my entire body would tremble, and I would be unable to speak. Noticing that something was wrong with me, Xiao Xingyu suddenly took my hand, winked at me, and whispered close to my ear.
Grandmother has a terrible temper. She doesn't have a kind word for anyone. But don't worry, when we meet her in a moment, she will definitely only scold me. She absolutely won't scold you.
I was a bit dazed, not understanding what he meant, until I heard Xiao Xingyu shout to the Empress Dowager.
Grandmother, your grandson is about to get married. But when I think of you having no one to keep you company in the deep palace, my heart aches terribly.
He pointed to the 4 young, handsome men behind him, and said in a very caring tone,
So I specially selected a few attentive companions to send to you. Grandmother, do you like them? If you think it is not enough, I can find some more.
I didn't know where he had found these people. As soon as he finished speaking, the 4 of them knelt down in unison and scrambled to speak.
Your Imperial Majesty, I can play the lute and sing.
I can too. I can also massage your shoulders and beat your legs. I am the best at serving people.
That is nothing. I can even warm your bed. Your Majesty, choosing just me is enough.
For a moment, the main hall was bustling with noise. I watched in a daze. I really didn't expect Xiao Xingyu to actually dare to do this. Sending handsome young men to an elderly woman was something only he could pull off. Sure enough, in the next second, the Empress Dowager flew into a towering rage. Without even questioning me, she threw us straight out of the door and docked Xiao Xingyu's salary for a year, telling him never to come back again. After stepping outside, I recalled the Empress Dowager's livid, furious face. It felt as if a breath of resentment pent up in my heart from my past life was suddenly, at this moment, was completely released. An imperial prince's wedding is very different from a commoner's. I didn't have to embroider my own wedding dress, but Xiao Xingyu insisted that I embroider a belt for him.
A man who is loved by his wife won't be laughed at when he goes out.
I helplessly agreed to his request. On the day it was finished, Xiao Xingyu came over, but the expression on his face was very heavy.
News came from the palace today that the crown prince's wedding date has been postponed. According to the rules of the dynasty, since the eldest brother is still here, if he doesn't marry, no one else can get married either. So our wedding date can only be pushed back as well.
My hand holding the belt tightened, and an inexplicable sense of unease spread through my heart. It took a long time before I managed to force a smile. Since that is the case, there is nothing we can do about the postponement. But Xiao Xingyu stood up with a cold face and walked toward the door.
I'm going to find my eldest brother to get a clear explanation.
I couldn't stop him, so I could only watch him ride his horse toward the palace. I waited anxiously for most of the day, truly afraid that Xiao Xingyu would get into a fight with Xiao Heng. It wasn't until evening that he finally returned, but his face was extremely gloomy, and even his knuckles were white from clenching his fists.
Eldest brother refused to see me at first. I said I wouldn't leave unless he gave me a reason. Only then did he say he wasn't feeling well, which is why he postponed the wedding.
I frowned. Xiao Heng had been in excellent health in our past life, and even minor illnesses were extremely rare for him. How could he suddenly be unwell? Xiao Xingyu angrily kicked a pebble on the ground.
But I checked all the imperial physicians' records of his consultations, and they all say he is in perfect health without a single thing wrong with him. I also asked other eunuchs, and they said that lately he has been very cold toward his prospective crown princess, and he often stares blankly at a portrait in the middle of the night.
He let out a cold laugh. His tone was absolutely certain.
He must have had a change of heart. He doesn't want to marry Yu Suiwan anymore. And yet, he has dragged us down, forcing our wedding date to be postponed too. What a heartless man.
I quickly covered his mouth with my hand, terrified that someone might overhear his words. As I held him, Xiao Xingyu took the opportunity to lean into my embrace. He clung to me, acting sweet and spoiled for a long time, before he finally looked up and said with utmost sincerity,
I'm not angry about anything else. I just want to be able to marry you and bring you home a day sooner.
With the wedding date postponed again and again, that alone, Xiao Xingyu, even a clueless outsider, could probably guess that something had gone wrong with the crown prince's marriage. At the mid-autumn festival banquet, I saw Yu Suiwan from afar, following behind a group of noble young ladies. She had lost a lot of weight compared to when I last saw her, and her eyes were rimmed with red. I couldn't quite describe how I felt inside. Clearly, in this lifetime, I had kept myself completely uninvolved with Xiao Heng, yet he still failed to get what he wished for. During the banquet, while everyone was exchanging pleasantries, it was Xiao Xingyu's turn to speak. Ever since he went to the palace last time to demand an explanation, his relationship with Xiao Heng had been very strained. At this moment, his words were laced with sharp sarcasm.
I wish Imperial brother good health. and an early marriage. Do not let down Lady Yu's devotion and her many years of waiting. My own grand wedding, however, cannot wait that long.
Xiao Heng's expression did not change at all, as if he couldn't hear the underlying meaning in those words at all. He simply waved his hand to dismiss him and have him sit down. I had no official status. According to the rules, I was not qualified to sit beside Xiao Xingyu, yet, completely disregarding the rules, he had his designated seat removed and squeezed in next to me at the very end of the hall. He didn't eat a single bite himself, but kept putting food onto my plate. Even the Empress, seeing this, couldn't help but tease.
The marriage Heng arranged for Xingyu is truly wonderful. Such an unreliable person before, yet now he actually knows how to dote on his wife.
Xiao Heng's eyes darkened, and he retorted coldly.
They aren't married yet. How can she be considered his wife?
Since he showed no courtesy at all. The atmosphere at the table instantly grew cold. Sitting right next to me, Xiao Xingyu had already clenched his fists in anger. The Empress probably also thought of our repeatedly delayed wedding. After a moment of thought, she said,
Since the crown prince is in poor health these days, why not let the Prince of Yan hold his wedding first? Why not bring in a grand, joyful event? With a grand, joyful event in the palace, perhaps the crown prince's health will also improve.
Xiao Xingyu's eyes lit up, and he immediately went to pull me along, to kneel and express our gratitude. Unexpectedly, a soft, crisp snap interrupted everything. Everyone looked up to see the cup in the crown prince's hand had been crushed into several pieces by him. Xiao Heng clutched his chest tightly, feigning extreme pain, and called out in a low voice,
I suddenly feel very unwell.
Immediately, someone called for the imperial physicians, and in an instant, the hall fell into utter chaos. I knew in my heart that the wedding could not be settled today either. Lowering my head, I prepared to withdraw with Xiao Xingyu, but suddenly heard someone calling my name in a whisper.
Liu Changning.
Xiao Heng was being supported by others, yet his eyes were fixed intently on me.
She once saved me, and knows my condition best. Have her come over to examine me.
Hearing this, Xiao Xingyu immediately shielded me behind him.
No. Even if he knows medicine, the crown prince is of such noble status. If anything really goes wrong, how could he possibly bear the responsibility?
The Empress thought the same in her heart, but Xiao Heng simply did not budge. His face grew increasingly pale, yet he stubbornly refused to leave, just like a stubborn donkey. I only want him to examine me, fearing something might actually happen to him.
You are permitted to treat him, no matter the outcome. You will not lose your head.
Go ahead. If anything happens, I will take the blame for you.
I nodded to Xiao Xingyu. When I placed my fingers on Xiao Heng's pulse, he stared at me absent-mindedly, a long-lost look of nostalgia suddenly flashing across his expression. I withdrew my hand and looked at the group of doctors waiting outside the door. His Highness is in no grave danger. He is merely highly agitated. A little rest and recuperation will suffice. This was no different from the diagnosis of the other doctors just now. Only then did the Emperor and Empress breathe a sigh of relief. Once the crowd had dispersed, I kept a straight face and came straight to the point. Your Highness is faking this illness. What is the purpose of this? Xiao Heng did not expect me to be so blunt. Yet despite my bluntness, he smiled.
Yes, I am faking it, and not just this time. All the previous excuses to postpone the wedding date were also faked. All of it was to prevent you from marrying the Prince of Yan. Liu Changning, do you really not know why?
He stood up, retrieved a painting from behind the bed, which depicted a woman in coarse clothes, brewing medicine. The wind blew her hair, revealing half of her delicate profile. That was a portrait Xiao Heng had painted of me with his own hands, back when I was still living among the common people. Looking at how distant I had become from him, his eyes were filled with heartache.
I was wrong in the past. I thought that as long as I kept my distance from you, I would be able to forget you. Until during dinner just now, I saw how well the Prince of Yan treated you. Seeing how affectionate you two were, I realized that I was actually jealous. And the jealousy was driving me mad. So even if I am condemned by the whole world, I do not want to lose you.
Even though I was prepared for this, my heart still shuddered violently. Frightened, I instinctively took a small step back, wanting to open my mouth to remind him that I was already betrothed. It was you who personally bestowed the marriage between me and the Prince of Yan. If nothing had gone wrong, I should have been married by now.
So what?
He let out a cold laugh.
Since I bestowed this marriage, I can naturally take it back as well. Furthermore, as for Xiao Xing, he wanted to marry you after just one look. How much sincerity could he possibly have for you? How can that compare to our bond spanning 2 lifetimes?
I shook my head, feeling that he had gone completely mad. Then what about you, Sui Wan? She is your betrothed wife. Xiao Heng fell silent for a moment, seeming to feel some regret. He let out a sigh.
I have wronged her. But perhaps there was simply no destiny between us. In the future, I will naturally arrange a good marriage for her to ensure she lives a peaceful life.
That would absolutely never happen. Xiao Heng clearly knew Yu Suiwan better than I did. He clearly knew she was proud and arrogant. Having suffered such a humiliation, even if she had to die, she would never marry another man. My instinct told me I could not stay, so I turned around and ran toward the door, only to find that a crowd of guards had long been stationed outside the room. The moment I stepped out, they surrounded me completely. Xiaohang followed me like a ghost.
For the next few days, you will stay in the side hall. Don't even think about running away. As you can see, there is no chance.
Xiaohang placed me under house arrest in the side hall. To the outside world, he claimed he kept me to tend to his health. I was terrified in my heart, not even daring to sleep at night, secretly hiding a hairpin under my pillow. That night, I saw Xiaohang, having just bathed, wearing only a thin robe. The moment he stepped over the threshold, I suddenly gripped the hairpin tightly. Xiaohang did not take it seriously at all.
A weak woman like you, can you really hurt me?
I shook my head violently, turning my hand to press the sharp tip firmly against my own neck. I never thought of hurting you, but if you dare to force yourself on me, I would rather die than submit. Xiaohang's face darkened instantly.
Just why?
He questioned me through gritted teeth.
What is so good about that younger brother? Have you forgotten that we were husband and wife for a lifetime?
Watching him approach step by step, I immediately stabbed down with force. Seeing the blood, Xiaohang had no choice but to stop in his tracks, quickly softening his tone to coax me.
Changning, was I not sincere enough to you in our past life? You sat securely on the Empress's throne, living a peaceful life, enjoying a lifetime of wealth and honor, along with my complete devotion as an emperor. Are you really willing to give all that up?
I cut him off directly. Not at all. Those were just things you assumed I wanted, arbitrarily forcing them upon me. Xiaohang, there was never any real affection in your heart. Why bother pretending to be so deeply in love? You are just resentful in your heart, feeling that what belonged to you was snatched away by someone else. Did Xiaohang really have feelings for me? Perhaps there was a tiny sliver, but this negligible bit of affection could neither compare to his royal pride, nor could it compare to his immense guilt toward Wanwan. In the end, it turned into a sharp blade thrust, ruthlessly into me. The room fell dead silent for a moment. Xiaohang stood frozen in place, his face growing more and more unsightly. He let out a frustrated, cold sneer.
So, what Xiao Xingyu gave you is what you truly want? Then I would love to see whether he is actually willing to give up his everything for you.
Xiao Xingyu had waited all night without seeing me return home. By the next morning, he would surely be searching for me, driven mad with worry. Xiaohang suddenly covered my mouth and forcibly hid me behind the screen.
Prick up your ears and listen closely to see how he will actually treat you in a moment.
Before long, the tightly closed doors were violently kicked open by someone. Xiao Xingyu seemed oblivious to the pain and cared even less about royal etiquette and hierarchy. He rushed in aggressively and roared at Xiaohang.
Where is Changning? Where on earth did you hide her?
Xiaohang paid him no heed at all, maintaining a high and mighty attitude.
Xingyu, I have thought it over carefully. This Lady Liu is not from a prestigious family. She is not worthy of your status. Let us call off this marriage. As long as you agree, you may choose any woman in the world.
Once these words were spoken, Xiaohang's selfish motives could no longer be hidden at all. Xiao Xingyu was stunned on the spot. He probably never imagined in his wildest dreams that his own elder brother would actually, behind his back, harbor designs on his bride-to-be. Xiao Xingyu's voice was extremely tense. With a long, grim face, he asked in return.
And what if I refuse to agree, no matter what?
After all, having been the emperor in his past life, very few people ever dared to anger Xiaohang. His expression darkened slightly, yet he still replied with a grim face.
Then get yourself to the borderlands to lead the troops, and never return to the capital for the rest of your life. Spend your days in that bitter, freezing place.
For the princes in the capital, no matter how out of favor they were, their fiefdoms would never be too far away, allowing them to return to the capital for the holidays. If he agreed to this, it was practically equivalent to exile. I suddenly felt a surge of anxiety. Xiao Xingyu and Xiaohang were biological brothers. Because Xiao Xingyu was the youngest, he was highly favored, and his temperament was quite pampered. Everything he used and played with was always the very best. Before he met me, everyone took it for granted that he would surely marry the finest noble lady. Would he really, for my sake, give all of this up? Yet, in the next second, Xiao Xingyu let out a laugh. It was as if this demand was as simple as picking a wild flower by the roadside. Without the slightest hesitation, he fell to his knees and kowtowed heavily 3 times.
A crown prince must keep his word. I accept your demand, imperial brother. Now, please return Changning to me.
Xiaohang simply could not comprehend this.
For the sake of a single woman, you are willing to give up all your wealth and status.
She is not just a woman.
Xiao Xingyu said, emphasizing every single word.
She is the wife with whom I will spend my life, staying by her side and protecting her forever.
Xiao Heng froze. His face, which had been filled with rage just a moment ago, suddenly looked somewhat bewildered. I closed my eyes, summoning a sudden burst of strength from somewhere. I threw my weight forward and crashed to the ground along with the chair I was tied to. Hearing the noise, Xiao Xingyu rushed in. He untied the ropes and gathered me into his arms. Before walking out the door, he cast a cold look back.
Xiao Heng, do you know what? You don't deserve to be a husband, nor do you deserve to be my elder brother.
Only after leaving the palace did I learn that Xiao Xingyu had not come alone that day. The emperor, the empress, and even the grand empress dowager had all come along with him. They had left the door open, hearing every single word Xiao Heng said. With red eyes, the empress said in disbelief,
You are trying to steal your own brother's wife. Do you have any idea, if word gets out, how the civil and military officials will look at you? How will the history books write about you? Do you still want to be the crown prince?
Xiao Heng stubbornly retorted.
Since I am the crown prince, isn't she just a woman? Why can't I have her? And why can't I take her?
He spoke with plausible arguments, his expression bordering on madness, without a shred of regret. Unable to listen any longer, the Grand Empress Dowager slowly stepped forward and slapped his face aside.
Emperor, you have failed to educate your son. Temper his disposition thoroughly.
Thus, the emperor ordered Xiao Heng to be confined in the palace, placed under house arrest for a month. As I was carried out of the palace gates, I suddenly spotted a figure, Yu Suiwan. She saw me too. Yet she didn't seem surprised, as if she had long expected this day to come.
His Highness went ahead with it after all. When I found that painting in his room earlier, I knew I would never become the crown princess.
I didn't know what to say, and after a long pause, I could only whisper, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. For the previous life, and for this life, having completely ruined her marriage prospects. Yu Suiwan looked up, wiping away her tears with her fingertips. She walked toward the palace walls, her skirt fluttering, with an indescribable resolve. Before leaving, he gave me a smile of relief.
After this incident, my father finally agreed to let me call off this marriage. I will not be the crown princess anymore.
I wanted to explain things to Xiao Xingyu, but he just stared at the wound on my neck, holding me tightly in his arms. His voice was muffled, sounding as if a great weight had been lifted.
No need to say anything. That you are safe is already enough.
Only then did I relax, leaning against his chest, and fell into a deep sleep. The next day, Xiao Xingyu took the initiative to request.
Your son has reached the age to leave for his fiefdom.
Although at the request of the emperor and empress, he did not choose the borderlands. It was still a remote place. So far that a single trip from the capital would take half a month. The empress still wanted him to stay, but Xiao Xingyu said,
It is better to be far away, lest someone harbors thoughts they shouldn't have again.
Time was pressing, so Xiao Xingyu and I did not have time to marry in the capital. We planned to reach the fiefdom before holding our wedding banquet. On the day of our departure, looking at the receding capital, he suddenly let out a sigh of relief. I lifted the carriage curtain, only to see, atop the city wall, a figure standing there, gazing in this direction, unmoving for a long time. I withdrew my gaze expressionlessly, listening to Xiao Xingyu say to me with a smile,
Although the fiefdom is far from the capital, it is very close to Huai'an and Jiangdong. If you miss home, you can go back and visit any time. Only.
He deliberately drew out his words, piquing my curiosity. Only what? Xiao Xingyu's smile deepened, holding me tightly by the waist and refusing to let go.
Only my wife. Don't stay away for too long and forget that someone is waiting for you at home.
I laughed and scolded him for being playful, but in my heart, I thought, finally, I don't have to be trapped in that gilded cage in this lifetime. Ahead is a future filled with endless spring light, and someone is holding my hand to face it together.